Hello and welcome back to The Inside Edge, Cricket Leinster's new video podcast. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Kate. We really hope you enjoyed the introduction to this series. And today we have another bumper podcast for you.
And of course, let us know what you're thinking of the new series on all of our social media channels at Cricket Leinster, and let us know who you'd like us to talk to and what topics you'd like talked about.
And in this episode today, we'll be delving into some very important topics such as diversity and inclusion.
And we've got a brilliant lineup for us today, starting off with Meena Baskarasubramaniam. Meena is one of the founding members of Adamstown Cricket Club, one of the fastest growing clubs in the whole of Ireland. She's also an independent director on the Cricket Leinster board and is also on the Cricket Leinster Safeguarding and Inclusion Committee. Meena, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
We're also joined by Abood Jumali. Abood is the Dublin GAA Diversity and Inclusion Ambassador, also an ambassador for racism, or Sport Against Racism Ireland, and a co-founder of Sporting for Fun in Ireland as well. Abood, it's great to have you.
Thanks very much, Andrew, for having me today. Glad to be here.
And we're also joined today by Cricket Leinster Development Manager Naomi Scott-Hayward. Over the last few years, Naomi has done great work for Cricket Leinster, branching out into loads of different groups, with Cricket for All and also working with girls of all age groups. Also, Naomi works with the Lord's Taverners and makes sure that the game is inclusive for everyone. Naomi, it's great to have you with us.
Thanks very much.
And so, Naomi, starting with you, the first question. What would your first memory of the sport be?
Well, I started back in secondary school, so that's probably my first memory was trying it out in the King's Hospital in Palmerstown. So that was really good fun because I finally found a sport for myself when I was in primary school. Like, I was not a sporty person whatsoever, and I thought sport just wasn't for me. So when I found cricket, that was when I was like, oh, I can actually do something here and throw a ball and catch a ball, and now I can be part of a team. So that was my first memory of it.
Great.
And Abood, you came to Ireland in 2008. How quick did you, I suppose, develop the bug for hurling?
Well, it took me a while to develop it, and I started, I suppose, introduced to the game in 6th class, primary school. I used to watch hurling, like, you know, on TG Cahir used to be on, and just did not appeal to me at all, like, you know. And what happened was then afterwards is I had a couple of lads who was in primary school who was with the local GA club, Ballantyre St John's, and went down there for a training session on a Tuesday evening. And that's how I got introduced to hurling, you know. It didn't appeal to me at first, because I couldn't lift the ball, you know, and I was just got frustrated, and I was like, you know, left the hurling, forgot about it until the next day. I was like, do you know what, I'll go and have another try at it. And lifted the ball, realising I fell in love with the best game on the planet.
Great.
And Meena, for yourself, obviously involved in so much in a cricket capacity, what were your first memories?
My first memories start way back in India. Like, you know, it's that's the only game I knew growing up. It's not as fancy as of a cricket game as I knew as it's played here. It's more of a street game. Like you see kids play everywhere on the street. With usually our stumps will be marked on 3 lines marked on a wall. Usually, you know, I lived in a place where very close to a temple, so we have a very big wall in our village, and that's where we play. And the temple markings has a white, red, white marking, and that's the red is the middle stump, and the 2 whites are our white stumps. You know, the 2 stumps, and that's how we played cricket on the ground. With usually we wouldn't even have money to buy a ball. It's usually paper rolled into a ball, and that's how we played. You know, with a bat is anything you would get. Like, you know, it's probably a notebook, old notebook. That's what we used to play. So that's the kind of game I knew growing up. And after that, it's our cricket heroes. They're our heroes. They're our only sports heroes we knew.
Yeah.
So that's my memory.
Great. And then I suppose delving into a little bit more of the inclusion, Naomi, for you, cricket wasn't massive here when you were in school. Like, for you, what term would describe inclusion best?
That's a difficult one, but I suppose like just thinking back on the last week and what I've been doing like day to day, I suppose like inclusion is everything. Like, there's so many different parts to it. I had one of our development officers that I manage in Wexford was doing a multicultural day within the local Loreto school. So that was inclusion from that side of things.
Yeah.
But I was doing like table cricket sessions for people with disabilities, the people on the autistic spectrum and different disabilities. So there's that side of things as well. So I suppose inclusion is so many different sides of the coin to it. But there's also, like, for example, I do sessions with people that have like drug addiction problems and things like that as well. So we have, like, I did a session during the week there with the Community Addiction Response Programme in South Dublin. So, like, I think, like, we need to include everybody in our sport, whatever sport that might be. And I think there's a place for everybody. And I do think that there's a sport out there for everyone. So I think it's just about opening it up and thinking about what people can do and not what people can't do.
Amazing.
And Abood, you've already said, you've mentioned your club volunteer St. John's. How important was that and your love for hurling kind of into getting into the Irish heritage and the community within the Gaelic club?
It was very, very important in my life, I suppose, growing up. And GAA played a very, very big part in my life. A lot of people think when they participate within the GAA, they throw on a helmet again, a corner forward, and that's it, they're done, Whether it's more than that. The values of the GAA gives you a community identity. So it gave me a community identity that way. It has, helped me in many ways in terms of, education-wise, in terms of teamwork skills, in terms of inclusivity as well, inclusivity on the pitch. That no matter what person's race is or what faith they are, if you can hold a hurl, strike a slitter or kick a ball, everyone's welcome on that, Just practice all they need, But it did give me opened up a big avenue for me in terms of, I suppose, learning English really, for, one of the biggest things. And it was a very, very huge barrier when I came to Ireland. Couldn't express myself properly. I remember one of the things was, I couldn't ask the teacher, where the soap was. You know what I mean? How couldn't express myself, created a big chaos then afterwards, everyone came up trying to see what I was saying, just doing my hands like that. And your man's like, what are you doing, like, But then after that, thankfully, the soap was sorted. but something as simple as that. But GAA, in terms of making friends, in terms of, that sense of community there, you go to your local market, you see the treasurer or the secretary, the same people are on a Saturday or Sunday over on the sideline.
Yeah.
That kind of sense of community is very, very important.
Yeah. And then Meena, you talked about cricket in India a lot. What would your view or what would your opinion of inclusion in cricket in Ireland be?
It's getting better, I would
Great.
say.
Okay.
Things are the landscape is changing.
Yeah.
In the past 10 years, like I've been in Ireland since 2006. I can see even in the last 10 years, I could see a massive change in cricket, the cricket scene in Ireland. But I think a lot to be done still.
And Naomi, talking about the Cricket for All that you've done so much work with, how important is that sort of a strategy, and how much is that including more and more people into the game and giving them a chance?
Yeah, so Cricket for All, I suppose, just for people who don't know what it is, there's kind of Cricket for All encompasses table cricket, which is played on the sides of like a table tennis table, but it can be adapted for any type of table so that we can use it on school tables as well and that sort of thing. And then Cricket for All encompasses the table cricket as well as then cricket skills and small-sided games and things like that. So we have like a table cricket competition that's been started this year in conjunction with our charity partners, Lord Taverners Ireland. And that's going to be run in South Dublin County Council area. So delighted that we've got entries are finishing next week and we'll have that running. And I think that's something that we're striving to be able to give kids an opportunity to represent their school when they never be able to do that within other sports. So for a lot of these kids, it's the first time that they'll ever play sports for their school.
Amazing. And Abood, then, just a similar question as I asked Meena then. How would you evaluate Irish sport from an inclusion and diversity point of view, obviously looking at it through the lens of the GAA?
We're in progress, but as Meena said, there's a lot that needs to be done. I suppose when it comes to diversity and inclusion, it's important to approach it in a way that is specific to whatever you're asking for, like which community you're reaching out to. I feel that whatever community a person is trying to, or an organisation is trying to reach out to, that they need to know what the culture for that specific community is, the do's and don'ts within that specific minority. I feel that's important, and a lot of people who are in the diversity and inclusion field kind of tend to. There's still a line that needs to be struck, a balance that needs to be struck, in order for them to actually go, for the minority to actually be felt welcomed. One of the things, for example, within the GA field, someone being walking past and they see a Gaelic football match or a hurling, predominantly people who are playing that, obviously they're Irish, white colour skin. And that could be, a barrier for a person who's walking past for them not to join. Like with me, holding a hurl and going across the country, for example, that breaks a huge amount of barriers. I remember I was in Ballyhonus, for example. I was going there, and I was in the Ballyhonus Mosque, and going there, done the prayer. Then afterwards, I went out to puck a ball against the wall, and there was kids there. Didn't even know them who they were. They seen me, they came over watching me, just me pucking the ball against the wall. Then I started, showing them, lift up the ball, lift the ball. They got interested. They've seen it in school. Possibly no one in the school maybe came up to them and approached them. Maybe they don't want to go. They don't see a representative there within that game or the sport to actually go and be part of it. So hopefully, please God, what I'm trying to do and the work I've been doing is trying to be that person that people, can actually see themselves. Like if they can see themselves doing something, then they can do it. If you can see it, you can be it. Whether that be GA, Gaelic football, hurling, cricket, any sport.
Yeah.
And Meena, just in relation to the work you've done in Adamstown, which has been such a brilliant progression over the last number of years, so what have been the main challenges you as a club have had to deal with, and how have you dealt with them?
It's a challenge we are still dealing. It's an ongoing challenge. When we started the club, it was back in 2008. When we opened the club, and we've progressed from there are 11 youth teams, like 17 across all age groups. One thing which when we started the club, the one thing which we wanted to focus on is this is not going to be a club only for men playing. We are going to develop youth, and we started training youth right from year one. From first year, we've started training youth. And Naomi has been there for a long time for that, for the supporting us. So we have 11 adult team and 17 youth team so that's a massive success story, Adamstown. But we play in a public park, in Corca Park, and soon probably we'll move into the new ground in Airlie Park in Adamstown. But not having an own ground is a huge barrier for growth. Because, even though we have such number of teams, we are only still in Division 5. We cannot progress beyond that. Because, we don't have the facilities. We don't have the facilities other established clubs have. And we will never have the facilities. So it's not, things are not under our control. We depend on South Dublin County Councils to cut the grass. We don't have the facility to cut our own grass. Even if we buy an equipment, we are not allowed to cut the grass. So things like that, we don't have any say over toilets in the park. So there are barriers for growth. So because of the barrier, it's heartbreaking every year to see our children growing up from year 5, we've been training them. When they come to an age when we finally see a hope on them that this is the child who's going to bring us to the next level, and when they come and say, actually, I've decided to move to another club, and that is heartbreaking for us. Every year we face this, and this is a constant battle we fight every year. And this is not only for Adamstown. I'm talking for all the clubs who play in. That's where the growth is. If you know that, that's where the membership is growing in such areas, and that's where the growth is. And such clubs are playing in public park, and they have no hope for progression. And that is a big thing which ask Cricket Leinster, Cricket Ireland. I know Cricket Leinster is doing a lot, but still a lot more need to be done to support those clubs, to progress.
And just that's an amazing point. And on that, Naomi, have been really good growth in the women's game over the last few years, with loads of new clubs joining. What else do those clubs need to do from an inclusion point of view to get that into clubs more?
Yeah, so I think it's quite difficult, as just going back on Meena's point there with the parks clubs, like we need to be working together with the county councils, with the local sports partnerships, and working in conjunction with them and the parks to be able to really get them to know what cricket is and the demands on a ground. They don't understand it, and I think that's part and parcel with any small sport when they don't understand what's actually needed. You need to kind of have that kind of growth and awareness around the parties that are involved. But back to your point on the women's side of things, I suppose it's great to see during the week we had the Give It a Blast event in Adamstown Community Centre, and they were fantastic. We had 20 girls down, or women down to play, so that's hopefully now we'll have a women's team started in Adamstown, which we've been working towards for the last 3 years. COVID put a little bit of a break on things, but it's great to see that, and you do see clubs are really pushing for the women's game, and we have Isabel Joyce as our Women's and Girls Development Officer, and I think having a designated person that's within Cricket Leinster that's able to work towards that and work with the clubs is really, really important. Before, it was just kind of put onto the plate of everyone, all the different development officers in the different areas, but now we have that designated support in Isabel. So she's been fantastic going out to the clubs and running these kind of the Give It a Blast events and the Give It a Go events for the girls, and growing the girls' sports from the young ages up, but then you also need to be having somewhere for them to aspire to. So having your women's teams is also really important. So you have to do a bit of both. And I think just having come and try days and having people that are willing to drive it within the club and having somebody to really steer that. If there isn't the drive there within the club, you're not going to have the kind of the energy that's needed to kind of bring it forward, So, yeah.
And we're going to come back to the guests in just a couple of minutes' time, but at the moment we're going to go through all the latest news in Cricket Leinster. Players, it's time to get registered for the 2022 season. And over 2,500 players have already registered, and all you need to do is follow the link on the screen now. And remember, registration includes full personal accident insurance and a contribution to the Cricket Leinster Disability Cricket Programme.
You may be interested to hear that player numbers grew by 35% overall in 2021, and clubs have recovered from the most acute impacts of COVID-19. It is very encouraging to see the growth in youth numbers, and with over 2,200 kids registered in 2021 versus 850 in 2020. The women's game is also showing encouraging growth trends, with almost 1,000 registered female players in 2021, and more clubs starting to embrace a full women's programme. Many for the first time, like Balbriggan in Fingal and Knockharley in Meath. Other clubs are re-establishing and expanding their female programmes, like Terenure, which now has 2 women's teams, and Railway Union also. Isabel Joyce is clearly doing a great job as Cricket Leinster Women's and Girls Development Officer.
The 2022 season is approaching us thick and fast, and the group stages have been made for all of the men's and women's leagues. There will be 160 teams competing in the open divisions of Cricket Leinster, spanning over 20 divisions. The former Division 3 has now been rebranded as the Second 11 Premier League and has been sponsored by Sports Hub alongside Division 4, while Buakit has remained title sponsor of the Premier League and Championship divisions. The Alan Murray Cup is also back and is returning for the first time since 2019, alongside T20 competitions such as the Tulane Cup, YMCA Salver and others will be played on weekends.
The women's structure will once again have 4 divisions since the expansion to that format was made in 2020, and we are delighted to see that there are 4 more teams involved this season than last year. The 4 main divisions will operate in a T20 league, while the Pilkington Plate, which is the main 50-over competition, will comprise of 2 groups of 5 teams.
And that was all the current news in Cricket Leinster at the moment. And I want to go back to you, Meena, and what you were saying earlier, obviously, about the public park cricket and really impactful stuff. You're obviously working on the inclusion committee at the moment. What's being done to help those public park teams? I suppose what has been done and what can still be done?
First of all, I want to start talking about the inclusion committee. Cricket Leinster is the only provincial union which has a dedicated safeguarding and inclusion committee. It's actually two prongs of the same committee. Same committee holds two roles. One is child safeguarding and the other one is inclusion. And we have varied, including myself, we have varied expertise. I'm nowhere an expert, but I'm including myself in there. We have varied level of expertise in the committee, and we've been working on solely on inclusion. So we started off with strategic. We have an inclusion policy developed for Cricket Leinster, and Cricket for All is one in the inclusion policy. And we also did we wanted to do the clubs to take responsibility from themselves. So we designed a survey for the clubs, which they can do themselves, look inside with them. Like, where are we? What are the things which we are doing good? Where are they? Where do you have to improve? Because I've seen clubs, they say, we are an inclusive club. We have people playing from all parts of the culture in our club. We are an inclusive club. And I was like, does that alone make you an inclusive club? How many of those players, my question to them would be, how many of those players would play in your top division, in your top team? Do you use them for your lower division, lower teams? How many of them actually progress to your higher level? And how many of them feel like, how many of them are sitting in your committee? Do they have a voice in your committee? Like, are they heard? Like, how have you made sure they're heard? You may have members, but are they heard? Same question for all the clubs. Even for Adamstown, I would be asking the same question. Do you have people from variety of parts of India, Bangladesh, and all South Asian countries in the club? Do they all have a say in your club, in the running of the club? So those are kind of it's not just about playing members. It's all about all across. They should be heard and included. And we always say it's always natural for us, people, as the saying goes, birds of a feather flock together. It's comfortable for us to be aligning ourselves with the people who are similar to us, who have similar cultural needs, similar behavior, similar practices. But it's breaking that comfortness and be outside that comfort zone and making a conscious effort to include everyone. That, to me, is more important. And that is what we are doing in our inclusion committee, constantly asking that question: are we doing enough? Are we doing right? What should the clubs do? That is the main point of our inclusion committee. That's what we are doing.
And is the onus therefore on each individual club and each individual player as a result to constantly be looking out for that and to make sure that, as you say, that in every single club, no matter what team, no matter what level of cricket you're playing, you have a voice?
You have a voice. That's, it's a responsibility for both of the players and also for the club. The onus is more on the clubs because players are not, I'll tell myself as an example. I would have never thought I would be part of Cricket Leinster. I'm somewhere in a suburb in Dublin. I'm nowhere. I started new into this country. Somebody inside Cricket Leinster gave me a phone call and said, I heard about you. Would you like to be involved in Cricket Leinster? That phone call, somebody made that effort to make that phone call. When people say, I have advertised my vacancies we always ask for new board members. It's all in the Facebook. It's all everywhere. Who's going to come? When you see, as you said, when you see when you talked about when a group of Irish players, Irish kids playing, as an outsider, would you be comfortable going in there actually, can I have a go? How would a person outside who's different to you would have said, you know what, I want to be part of your committee? Who would say? They won't say. So you have to make an effort. That's a majority. That goes with any type of inclusion, not just cultural inclusion. For women, the same, and people with additional needs, it's the same. They are not going to put themselves forward. You have to make an effort. That club needs to put an effort in, saying, you know what, hold on a second, do you want to come with us? Come and join the team. That's the effort which the club needs to do. And similarly, the players need to take an onus as well, but more is on the club.
And then I suppose this is kind of a two-pronged question for you, Abood, right? So what does it feel like knowing you've potentially paved the way for other people to come into Irish sport? And what advice would you give them?
It feels great. It feels that the work that I've been doing the last couple of years is paying off. But these things takes time, and to be, to know that I suppose, created a pathway for other people from all different backgrounds and cultures and faiths to participate within sports. It does feel great, like getting people now from like a person there, a Mauritius family there, reached out saying, I want my kid to be, join the local club there in north of Dublin. Is there any clubs you can suggest, etc., etc.? And that was actually all because I was pucking a ball against the wall there. One of my, mates, Gav, and the kid turns out that he was actually watching from the window, So then obviously the father then reached out to my friend to see who, to get my kind of details, and I was more than happy to obviously assist, But that's obviously one person. Now, and it was in North Dublin. Now, and to have the feeling of, majority, like children from throughout the country, and even outside the country as well, it's an amazing feeling, I have to say. And the advice I would give for people who take take on Gaelic football or hurling, or GA handball or GA rounders, is just to keep at it. Literally just keep at it. There are going to be days where you're going to say, this is not for me. There are going to be days where you're just going to be, lazy. There are going to be days where you're just not feeling it. There are going to be days where you're saying, okay, you're not starting a team. If you're in a club or in a team, you're not starting. There will be questions within their heads that saying, okay, am I doing something wrong, or is it something the club is doing something wrong, or is the management doing something wrong? But then, it's all about hard work and dedication and belief, that's what's the most important thing. It's very easy to say, throw the hurl and throw and say, that's it, I'm going to a different sport, But, it's not easy to maintain that consistency of belief and dedication and hard work and being out and training no matter what the weather is. That's what famous quote. No matter what the weather is, lashing rain, hailstone, snow, even thunder, you go out and you keep at it and train and train and train.
Yeah.
And finally, Naomi, looking forward to the 2022 Cricket Leinster season, from your standpoint, what can we all do, I suppose, to help out with the initiatives that you're involved in, or to learn more, something? What can we all do?
Well, I think that starting the conversation, like watching this podcast, if you're watching this, obviously it's a good start. But I suppose like having the conversation is really important. So it's been great that we've had such good attendance at a lot of our workshops, where we've had like diversity and inclusion conversations, and we've had like workshops on how to start cricket for all within your club and things like that. So I suppose getting the information out, and if you need any information, go to your development officers, ask the questions and get the information, and they'll point you in the right directions. If you're trying to start a girls team, definitely go to Isabel Joyce. She'll definitely be the person to be talking to there. She'll be fantastic there to try and get you up and going and started with that. And then if you're looking to get involved within the kind of cricket for all side of things, the disability cricket, then supporting the Lord's Taverners Ireland is a nice easy way to do it. If you want to just donate, you can become a member. I think it's €60, and you just go onto their website, or we have a Ticket Taylor link on the Cricket Leinster website as well. So that's an easy thing if you just want to throw a few bob at it and not have to do anything yourself. But if you want to get involved and become like a coach or anything like that, like we're starting a new programme over in Fingal County Council area. We just received some funding there at the start of the year, so we've kickstarted it there on the 1st of March, and that's through the Disability Awareness and Participation Fund, which has been fantastic that we've got that, and we're looking for more coaches as well. So get involved, get in contact, and we'll get you guys trained up and get you started.
Great.
Can I add one thing to that? Inclusion. If any club wants to know how to wants help with their inclusion, our Cricket Leinster's inclusion committee is very help. We would help you. You can contact inclusion@cricketleinster.ie. You can email us, and we will help you with any questions they may have.
Well, it's been brilliant to be joined by such wonderful guests today on The Inside Edge. And thank you, Meena, Abood and Naomi, for sharing such brilliant stories and insights with us.
And that concludes another episode of the Inside Edge podcast here on Cricket Leinster. We really hope you did enjoy it, and of course stay tuned on all the Cricket Leinster social media channels at Cricket Leinster so you don't miss out on any of the further episodes down in the series. But for myself and Kate, it's goodbye for now.